I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we'll continue to use price actions towards taking informed decisions in the market. And we will be assessing stocks which have been in the recent news for good or bad reasons. One of the stocks which updated its information to the exchanges was Mahindra Auto. And the update was overwhelmingly positive. So, as an auto manufacturer, as an OEM, what matters is how many units they sell. And we can see that almost every business vertical was significantly up year on year and was even higher when we compare it with the recent sales. So, here we are looking at a breakdown of what was submitted. So, Mahindra Auto reports that their farming equipment business, the tractor sales are up 12%. Trucks and buses sales is up 14%. Commercial vehicle sales are up 14%. SUV sales are up a staggering 30%. And in total, in general, they have reported an increase of 26% in sale, which is obviously very staggering. The reason for this, of course, is there are some credits which are due to the manufacturer themselves, that they are doing what is perceived as good work by the market, and therefore they have this increased number of customers. And we can clearly see that in this particular chart as well. So, in addition to things that Mahindra Auto is doing, there are also certain government level events and policy changes which makes this a more favorable business environment for Indian automakers. And one of the policy level changes is, of course, one of the major reasons why Donald Trump is unhappy with India is the tariff on the auto sector. So, just to speak a little bit on this, OEMs and in particular auto manufacturers employ a large number of people. Employing large number of people, it is very important that these OEMs are profitable somehow. And by employing a large number of people, these OEMs in their own way contribute to a sense of social and political stability. So it is very important for domestic leaders that a sizable percentage of the population is gainfully employed in an organization where they could realize their full potential. So because India has obviously one of the highest populations in the world, if not the highest, protecting labor intensive resources becomes one of the key criteria for the government. This is the government of India's position. Now, foreign institutions see this position as an impediment to their own businesses, because if an average Indian spends $10,000 or $50,000 on a vehicle, $50,000 obviously not being an average Indian, but let's say if that's the capacity, taking finances and so on, then the Americans and the Europeans also manufacture a large number of automobiles which cater to that particular segment. And by taxing them almost unfairly or punitively, that those vehicles become inaccessible to us. So the point that I'm trying to make is that let's just assume that we have to purchase a car for rupees 25 lakh. If all duties and tariffs were removed, I can bet that you are going to be able to purchase a state-of-the-art BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi. And obviously, why would you then want to purchase Mahindra Auto? So, in a sense, one could say that the Indian auto truly thrives because of Indian policy making. And the Indian policy making is here to stay, because despite all the pressure from the US, Indians have not decided to change anything very significantly or very dramatically. But we must know that as investors in this particular segment, this is the real risk of the segment. The day duties are cut or duties are removed, that needs to be timed only when Indian auto manufacturers can produce a quality of, let's say, the Germans or the Japanese or the Americans. The quality specifications needs to get there. So OEMs in India should be in a rush to get there. That is, they should be able to produce cars of an exceptional quality at the price that their international peers are doing. So, for example, Mahindra Auto is obviously producing great cars, but there are better cars available in the market. It is just that they are tariffed too much. and that's the reason why they benefit from these sales. This is my perspective. This is a benefit and a drawback of having this kind of a society. India obviously got free a long time back, and we should have actually pressed the accelerator on this. We should have truly encouraged R&D and development in this. Alternate fuels, different types of power sources. But I think we are still at least 2 decades or maybe a decade at least behind. We have the internal capability in a small number to be able to achieve this. It's just now about being able to bring them together, and which is where true Indian businesses are required. Any which ways, coming back to the chart at hand, we are looking at Mahindra Auto. We are seeing a great news that has been reported by the stock, and we are seeing that since the last 6 months, it seems like the news has entirely been factored by the market. So it's obvious. I'll just make this a thicker vertical line. We will see that the stock obviously created its low in the month of April, and the low at the time was 2400, and the high since April into September has been 3700, which is an almost 25% increase in price, which pretty much corresponds to the overall sales value that is reported by Mahindra to the exchanges just recently. So on the surface, the change in price and the change in sales value seems to have been perfectly coordinated. The next thing to see is obviously that once I remove this line for better visibility, we will see that the previous high that the stock has created is the all-time high. And when we know this in all the videos that we have assessed so far, that we begin with the monthly in order to analyze the trend. We want to obviously have a more positional style of trading, and we are seeing a stock which clearly has created a life high. In other words, the only bias that we are carrying into the stock is going to be on the long side or no side. That's as per me. Of course, individuals can take their own call on this, but this is what I would be doing. I wouldn't be shorting Mahindra Auto, and I would be looking to add Mahindra Auto, but the question is now where. So I'll obviously shift the time frame and I'll move it to the weekly. And what I'm seeing on the weekly is not at all interesting to buy. I mean, the primary reason for that is if we look at what is happening in the recent weeks, that is the manner in which this up move was realized. I'll again darken this line a little bit. You can see that in a way it has created this trend line, and my problem is that this trend line is very, very steep. First of all, the support is at least 2% below the current market price. And secondly, this kind of a trend line is extremely steep. If the stock trends using this trend line as support, then this is going to become hyper bullish. The stock will become hyper bullish. Another way is that maybe the stock breaks this particular trend line, retests it, and stays back in this range for some time, and then establish a new or a fresh bullish pattern. In other words, even though if I just remove this line for now, even though my bias coming from the monthly is long, what I am basically seeing on the weekly charts is not very interesting. It looks like an ascending wedge. It's a pattern which can continue for quite some time. So there is merit in trying to bottom pick it perhaps, but this pattern is not very, very exciting. And consequently, even though this is a bullish stock, it would be perhaps one of those stocks that I won't be looking to create a position so quickly, unless of course it corrects by 2% immediately and then takes a support around the trend line that we had marked earlier. Finally, we move to the daily to see what's happening on the stock, and we can see that the stock did break a range. I'll mark this here. This must have been a quite decisive range for the time. And we have seen that there is obviously a gap support around the range, and this 3200 level is pretty much close to the trend line support that we had drawn from the weekly chart. So which means that if I connect these lows here, so I means maybe the angle was slightly different in the weekly charts, but you get the point. The idea is that the stock could get it could take support here as the first line of support, and there is merit in trying to attempt it based on certain confirmations. But when I see this trend line, I'm not too excited. So When I think of it, it looks like okay, because of the monthly trend, one has to, as a moral obligation, be long on the stock. The weekly pattern does not look too exciting, but since we have to go long on the stock, we have to wait for the stock to get oversold. Sorry about that. And we just change these settings and look at it. It's already oversold, this particular stock, but there's no green candle. We'll wait for a confirmation. For some reason, intuitively, the stock is not exciting me that much, even though it does meet a few criteria. I think I would go long on the stock, but maybe not in this particular wave so much. So I'll wait for seeing the behavior of this stock around this trend line is very, very steep. This trend line, which comes still around this 3400 odd level, 3450 odd level, there's 2% lower. This trend line is quite steep, and I think that at least it should test this trend line, because it's such a steep trend line, and that if not this week, next week, maybe I'll give it 6 more weeks. It should test this trend line and then hopefully form a pattern on the upside around here somewhere. Yeah. So if it tests this trend line and forms a reasonable pattern, then maybe this looks okay. But this is all wishful thinking. Intuitively, I feel that the stock could range for a bit, because the up move seems to be too strong to hold for very, very long time. So point being that Mahindra Auto seems, just to conclude it, Mahindra Auto seems to be a great stock in order to have in one's portfolio. If I were already holding it, I would be defending this particular stock. I would believe that for some reason the market has factored in all the good news that is to come on this stock, and the stock looks like it will trade in a range with a bullish bias. The trend line on the weekly seems so steep that it looks like a trappy stock, a stock which can trap you in a way. So unless I have a wide SL planned for this particular stock, maybe I'll not be too keen on getting in. And yes, and I would definitely wait for some more pullback, even though it is oversold on the daily, in order to take a decision on this stock. So with that, I hope that we have learned something new based on our discussions on this particular chart. And once again, I thank you for all the wonderful comments, thoughtful comments that you make, and for the support that you are showing. Thank you for your patience and time. I wish you all the best. Thank you.